Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's James, and today we're going to be talking about the Moog Mother-32. So, I acquired the synth about a month ago, and I've been messing around a lot with it, and I mostly use it for bass sounds, but I do some leads. We'll go over that in a different video. Today we're just going to be focusing on making some cool bass sounds. So, we're going to be working on the basically like one sound, and we're going to start off kind of doing stuff in the hardware. Then we're going to go into Ableton Live here, and we're going to be looking at some processing that you can be doing afterwards to make it kind of liven up the sound, give it some reverb, delay, widen it up a little bit. But let's just get right into it. So right off the bat, this is kind of a basic patch just for just a regular saw patch. So nothing special. You can use the keyboard on here, but I also have it set up in Ableton as an external instrument. It's going out through my synthesizer keyboard, which is an M-Audio Venom. That goes into the MIDI in on the Mother-32. Then the sound is created, and then it goes out through a 1/4-inch instrument cable into my synthesizer again on an instrument port, and then I can listen to that through my DAW, which is Ableton. So I can play it on my keyboard, I can play it on my actual computer keyboard, and I can play it on this keyboard, or I can draw notes. I can do a lot of stuff now with that external instrument setup I've got. So I would highly recommend doing that. You can use the sequencer on here, but if you're going to be producing music and stuff like that, it's a lot more practical to set it up this way and kind of do stuff on the computer and then get it set up on the hardware and then do the processing on the computer. It makes life a lot easier. So, right now I've just got this basic saw patch, and I'll show you guys here. I've got this little sequence I kind of wrote up. It's really simple, really straightforward. I try to keep the sounds or notes between like G1 and basically between in this range. So if you go a little bit higher, it kind of starts to get away from the bass. And then if you go lower, it just gets the note gets so low that it just doesn't sound like a note anymore. It just sounds like an oscillation. So I found this to be a really good range, and I try to stay within it, and it's given me, really good results. So I've just got this little sequence set up here, and if I just play through it, it's a really simple patch, or not patch, but sequence. So we can leave that going in the background, and we can go over to the hardware now. So we can start messing around with this. So right now I've got the cutoff at about 30-ish%. I've got the mod amount at around 60. It's being modulated by the envelope here, and decay is at about 40% with the sustain off. And that's really the only thing that's making sound here right now. One thing I do want to do is just turn VCA mode on and then turn the volume down just a little bit. It kind of gives it a little bit more life to the sound, because if you're going with the filter, like if you have the amplitude going with the filter, it just kind of takes away from the sound, because by the time you get to that low end of the filter, the amplitude is so low because it's following the same exact filter or envelope that you don't hear the bass. So I like to leave the VCA mode on so you hear the full sweep of the filter when you're using this kind of stuff. And one thing I wanted to do next is, since the Mother-32 is a single oscillator, what I like to do is to kind of get, it's almost like a pseudo dual oscillator thing. What I want to do is use the pulse over here and mix it with the saw, so you have two different waveforms going at the same time. And it's really simple to do. All you do is you take VCO pulse, go into external audio, and then all you do is you turn the mix. So you can hear there, let me turn that down. So you can hear that pulse, pulse, and then saw. Put it in the middle, you get both. And then, if you want to kind of edit that square wave sound, you just You can either do it with the LFO. I'm going to do it with the envelope just because it kind of gives it a little bit more effect. So I turn that up to envelope, then you bring that up a little bit, and it kind of fattens up the sound. It gives you a really nice sound. Then you can kind of turn down the cutoff a little bit and give it a little bit more decay. So now you're getting kind of a nice detuned bass almost with one oscillator, which is kind of cool. And then one thing I do like to do is take the keyboard. So go from keyboard here up to the mix. So what that's doing is each note kind of becomes unique because the higher you go up on the keyboard, the more voltage is supplied to this mix. So the mix is effectively going like this as you go up toward the keyboard, or up to a higher note on the keyboard. So what that's going to give you is, lower notes will be more saw based and higher notes will be more square based. So each note has its own kind of unique characteristics because the mix is ever so slightly adjusted for each note, and it gives it kind of a evolving sound almost as you kind of play up the scale, which is kind of nice. I'll give it just a little bit of resonance just to kind of make it sound a little bit better. So then one thing I also like to do is to patch the envelope generator to the cutoff. And while this sounds redundant, if you turn the cutoff down, what's essentially happening here is it's exponentially increasing the filter kind of track instead of the regular kind of linear VCF mod. So, if you turn the VCF mod all the way down, you're still going to get the modulation. But then when you start to bring it in, what it's almost doing is creating a moment of sustain, like the envelope will go up, and then because you have so much voltage going in, it only goes up so high, it almost clips. So it goes up, then it kind of stays sustained, and then it starts to go down instead of like a triangle with like a bent side, like a typical wave. So this gives you more like goes up flat, kind of plateaus, and then goes down. So you get kind of a more, it's like adding sustain to it without actually needing to use sustain. So then you can get a plucky sound with that sustain element to it, which is kind of cool. So, now we have that. And I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, you can add a little bit more pulse width. I'll add like a little bit of glide just because a little bit of effect. I'll keep sustain off, and we can kind of leave it at that. And now what we can do is start going towards external processing. So that's why we have Ableton here. So the sound just kind of comes through this track, and you can do whatever you want to it. So one plugin I really like to use with the Mother-32 is a plugin called Multiply. And essentially what it is it's a chorusing plugin that'll kind of detune or make it stereo, or it'll do like a lot of stuff. So right as I load it up, you'll hear the difference. So now you can hear that it's a little bit clearer. It's on both left and right now, and it's like having stereo sound from a single mono oscillator, which is cool. And you can kind of go through, if you want like a really fat lead, you can go with the ultra fat setting, and then you can kind of just mess around with it a little bit to kind of give you that like that nice like fat bass sound. And then one thing that I like to do is you go up to audio effects and you create an audio effect rack. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply delay, reverb, some processing to only the highs, and I'm going to leave the bass untouched because it makes it easier when you're mastering to kind of tame the bass when you don't have delay, you don't have reverb or anything like that on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a simple auto filter, and I'm going to go over here to click on this little icon here for chain, and I'm going to duplicate this chain. So right away, it sounds louder, that's not the idea, but what we're gonna do here is we're gonna bring the frequency down to about 100-ish hertz, and then we're gonna do the exact opposite. We're gonna change this to a high pass filter and bring this down to about the same right about there. So now where this chain stops, this chain begins. So this is just the highs right now. We can even bring it up a little bit more just to be sure. So now what we can do with that is apply some reverb to it. And that's only being applied to the high sounds, and the lows are being completely bypassed by all of this. So you can kind of, fatten this up a little bit. Not necessarily fatten it up, but just make it sound kind of nice. Give it a little bit of a reverb tail. Maybe add a little bit of ping pong delay to it. So now you get, you can hear here that this is our bass, and then this is our highs with all the effects on it. So that way, when you're in mastering, you don't have to worry about having a muddy bass sound, because the effects are only being applied to the highs and the mids. So that makes it a lot easier to work with when you're trying to tame with a kick drum or something. So now, I'm pretty happy with that. What I'm gonna do is we're just gonna make a new track, a new MIDI track, I should say. And I'm just gonna load up a simpler, and then I'm just gonna look up a kick drum. And trust me, there's plenty of them here. And I guess it doesn't matter. I guess this one's already highlighted. So let's select that one, that's probably okay. And then I'm just gonna do the typical, 4-bar, or not 4-bar, but 4-note kick. So now that we have that, what we can do, and this is what I usually do for most of my projects, is I'm gonna duplicate the kick drum. Instead of using a simpler on this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load up an operator. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow me to create a side chain that's really clear. So in operator, I'm gonna take the sustain and bring it down to 0. I'm gonna take the decay and just bring it back a little bit to between 300 to 400 milliseconds. And now when I come into here, the Moog sound, I can apply a compressor and get the that really clean sidechain wave. Typically people use kick drums or percussions for their sidechain, but what I've found is that they're not as clean as just a regular operator kind of pluck. There's a lot of different frequencies, and there's sometimes a lot longer or shorter. The operator gives you really good control over the sidechain, so you can do a lot of stuff with it to make your sound fit and kind of fit together like puzzle pieces with that. So now let me turn that down a little bit. So now you can hear that our let's see if we start the operator now. Mute it. You can hear that side chaining effect. You can bring down the gain or the threshold to kind of make it a more pumping sound, which is always good to do for bass, because you want to leave a lot of room for your kick drum, because they're both bass sounds. You're going to need to leave room for both of them. So now we've got both of these sounds going, and you can just kind of go back to your Moog here and just kind of mess around with some settings and just see if you can get something really cool with it. Make it a little bit crazy or whatever. Obviously it's up to you. It's a modular synthesizer. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. One thing I really hope to do one day is patch these together, or not patch these together, but get another one to patch them together. That's kind of cool. So now if you wanted to use the LFO for that pulse width modulation, you can flip it and just start. Now you're getting a really cool, pulse width modulation sound going on there. And, You know, you can mess around with the reverb a little bit, kind of cut out the lows a little bit more high. And then, I mean, if you want, you can apply some like good processing to it, just to kind of liven up and start to master the sound a little bit before you even get to the mastering chain. So this will kind of, you know, whatever you want to do works. You know, you can kind of bring up some of the high frequencies, a little bit less mid, just because it's more of a bass sound. You don't want the mid that's going to be for other sounds. And again, down with the mids a little bit. And then you can bring the lows like really high up, so you get like a nice thick bass. And then, you know, you can turn down the... And now I think that sounds pretty cool. Like, I would definitely want... Actually, I might as well make a song with that after this, so... yeah. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys want more of these videos. I might try to make a few more patches. But yeah, let me know if you guys like this. Let me know if you guys have any criticisms or, you know, anything to help make these videos better. I know that I do ramble a little bit, so I apologize for that. But, you know, if you guys like what I'm doing, leave a like. Comment down below if you guys have any other ideas or if there's anything else you guys want to see me do. I might record some... not necessarily overviews, but just going over some tracks I've made before and kind of the process behind them. So I might do that soon. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, thanks. Bye.